Hey there, it's Graciela here. In today's video, we'll be learning how to work with fillable Excel templates in Power Automate. So we're going to be working with this app that has just a list of projects and some details about each project, like the project name, company, department, who is the team that is going to work on the project, as well as some budget information. This is the app that we have an interface for, and this is connected to a few SharePoint lists. But what we want to do is when someone clicks on save and send, we are going to get all the information from the project, as well as the project team and also the budget, and we are going to insert that into this template that we have. We have four fields that we need to fill out from the project name, as well as the total approved. And as here we have two tables, one for the budget details, which is what we have here on this right side, and we also have this in the middle, which is the project team. So we're going to be using a combination of Power Automate actions, such as the insert into a row to fill out the tables, and we are also going to be using an Office script to capture the information and place it here in column B for the project name, company, and total approved. So for that, let's just get started and go to the Power Automate portal. Let's start a new flow, or if you already have a solution that we're working on, we can start the workflow from the solution. I'm going to go with an automated cloud flow, and in this case, we need the trigger when an item is created or modified in SharePoint, because here the projects can be created but not officially be sent for approval or to start until the user hits on save and send. So we're only going to generate the template once the user finishes everything, and then we can create the template. So we need this trigger for created or modified. And we are going to call this flow generate project template. First, let's select what's our SharePoint site, which is this one, and then our list name. The list name is going to be this one that we have here, admin project, and then project. And something really important is that we only want this to execute when the project status is in progress, because here we can see that we have several projects in idea status, and once they are moved to in progress, it means the user clicked here, and then we can create a template. So for us to do that, we need to go to settings and kind of lock this flow to only execute when the status of the project is in progress. So first, let's add a compose action here, and I will grab the code for the column that we're interested in, which in this case is the status of the project. Let's just make sure I grab the right one. It should be status value, because we are going to get the actual value. Let's open a notepad just to keep it there. And what we need to do is this one to be equals to in progress. So for that, we need to remove the curly brackets, really important, and also keep the at the beginning. Then we start writing equals, open parentheses, and then we say that this has to be equals to in progress for this workflow to start. So in progress, here we have it in Spanish, so that's the one we're gonna go with. Let's just make sure it's written correctly, and it is. So I'm going to copy this code, then go back to my trigger, go to settings, and here we have this section that says trigger conditions. I'm going to hit on add and then just paste the code that I wrote. And with this, the workflow will be locked to only execute when this column has this value. And since the project are created as ideas first or status idea, then this is not going to execute until the user changes the status of the project to in progress. So this is really important to avoid executions that we don't need. So let's delete the compose because that was a temporary section. And let's go back to our template. Here we have some information about the project that we need, total approved, and all of this. And this is going to come from the trigger, because if we have a look at the information that we have in our SharePoint list, we have the company, project name, status, department, the budget, all of this is in this table. or in this list. But the project team and the budget detail, those are in two separate tables. The first table that we have is this project team, which, as we can see, this has a lookup column against the project table, so we know that these three records belong to this project. So we're going to be using this column to grab the list of items for the project list and then just insert them into the Excel table. Same as the budget. The budget has a lookup column that is connected to the specific project we're working with, using this connection with the original project table. In this way, we can connect what are the years that are related to which project. So for that, we need to bring what's the ID of the project and filter these two tables by the project ID that the trigger is referring to. So for that, what we are going to do is use the Get Items section. The Get Items action, Get Items action. And then we're gonna get this from the SharePoint side, and then we need to get the items from the project team table, which is this one. And then we are going to add this additional parameter, which is called filter query. With this one, we can apply filters directly to our tables for it to give us a result that is just what we care about, because this table, as we can see, it has a few more rows than the ones we need. It has some other projects that also have team members, but for this specific run, we only really care about these three, the ones that are a test project, because that's the one that the project that we are saving it's related to. So we need to filter by this column, and then we need to just get the results for that specific one. There are different options on the web that we can search, but that is called OData Query. And we actually have a blog on that. If you want to have a look, we're gonna leave it in the description of the video. But here, this is kind of a guide to pretty much almost all the type of lookup columns, all the column types in SharePoint and how we can query on them. In this example, for example, we have filter lookup columns. It gets me to this section in which we pass the internal column name, then /ID, and then equals, and then the ID. I usually prefer to use the ID over the title or the column that we are using to show the value in the lookup column, because the ID is usually unique, so that's a lot better to use. So I'm going to copy this, and for us to make sure, we need to go here to list settings, and I'm going to open the project column. And here at the top, we're gonna see what's the internal name. If you have renamed your columns, or if you have special characters, then the internal name will be different. And if not, it's going to be the same as you can see is here. So I can just filter by project name equals and then ID. And here I will just select the ID that comes from the trigger. And this way we are going to filter the project team by the project ID that our trigger refers to, what's the project record. So let's call this team. And I'm just going to copy this and paste it, because we're going to do a pretty similar thing for the budget, but just on a different column. So this is the budget, and I'm going to select the budget list, and you can see that the column name is the same, so we can keep the same format. Let's hit on save, and for now, we have all the data ready for us to start adding this information into the Excel file. So for that, what we're going to do, I will go back to my SharePoint site, and I will go here to my libraries. And we have this testing library. So I will just go ahead and create a folder that it's going to be called project files. And here I will just upload the template that I was showing here. And we're just going to put it into the SharePoint site. And then I can, whenever we need to generate this template, pretty much what we need to do is to create a copy of this template and fill it out with the information for the project. So for that, we're going to be using the get file content, and then we're going to make a copy of the file, and then we are going to insert the data. So for that, let's add a new step, and I will do get file content. And here we are always going to use the same template, so we can either do get file content using path or just get file content. In this case, it's the same template we're always going to be using, so we're safe to use the path. So in this case, we are working with the test library, then project files, and then we have our template. Now that we have this, we can create a copy. So for that, I'm going to create another folder so we can separate the original template from each project page. So we're going to call it generated files. And we're going to create a copy of the template into each of these new folders. So for that, we can do create file. We could also use the copy file. That I think that would also work pretty similarly to what we are doing now. I usually prefer to use the create file to have just a little bit more control on what's the name I want to put in the file name, but the copy one would work just as good. So in this case, we are going to create the file here in project files and then generated files. And then the file name, we're going to make it for it to have the ID. No, sorry, I selected the wrong ID. That's not the one. So here, the file name, it's going to use the ID from the trigger, which is this one, the first one that shows up there. And then we're going to add GUID. That's a generic ID that we can generate from Power Automate. And it's going to generate to make each file unique. So let's hit on add. And then we can do .xclsx just to have the extension as well. Otherwise, SharePoint won't recognize it. And finally, the file content is going to be the file content that we got from the template. So with this, we are creating the copy of the file. Now we can start adding new rows into the different tables, which in this case, it's the project team, and here the budget details. So for that, we are going to use the add row in a table from Excel. Add a row in a table. And the first thing that is going to ask us is where's the file that we want to use. And we need to select the SharePoint site, then the library in which the file is in, which in this case is test. And then we need to select the file. In this case, we don't know what's the file that we're going to use. We don't know it in advance because each time that something is generated, then we're going to create a new template. So it's going to be dynamic. However, I'd like to select the original file only the first time, so it generates the code for me instead of me having to write it. So for this, we are going for now to select the template, this one. So it can recognize what's the table, and it can also recognize what's the columns that the table have. So the project team is table 1 and the budget is table 2. So here we are selecting table 1 because we are going to add a new row into the team table. And here we just need to select what are the columns that we want to fill out. And that automatically recognizes what we need. And for example, here we need to add one row into this table for each of the people in the team. So we're just going to do dynamic content, and I'm just going to go ahead and select the name for each of the users that we are working with. So this is display name, and then we're gonna do the role. That's going to be the role value, and then we're gonna have the contact type. I remember it's just type value. Let's see, make sure. Okay, it's tipo. It's in Spanish. Sorry about that. I forgot that the list is actually in Spanish. So it's this one, the column name plus value. Then we're gonna do department. This is department value, and the hours will come as well from this same list. So now we pretty much have everything. And here for each of the items in the team table that are related to the project, we are just going to add one new row. I will go to the code view and I will copy what we have here. I'm going to write the table name and also this code that we have here because it's going to be really important once we move this to a dynamic table and a dynamic file. I'm going to copy this action just the Excel one, and we are going to paste it to do the very same thing, but with the budget. So I would say it's pretty much the same process. We just need to select table 2. Once we select table 2, the previous columns are going to go away, and we're just going to have the new columns that we care about, which in this case is the year, which comes from budget, and also the total, which is here as well. And then I'm just going to rename this for each budget. And let's make sure that this changed. So yeah, it's changed. And for each team member, we're gonna make sure that the code actually changes. And yeah, so now let's hit on save. So in this case, what we want to do now is to make it dynamic, because for now, if we run it as it is, it's going to just add it into the project template. And the project template always needs to stay without data. It needs to stay clean and empty. So for us to make that dynamic, here the file needs to be something different. The file needs to be the file that we are creating, which in this case is this one. From the create file, we are going to grab the ID. This unique ID of the file or folder will help Excel recognize what's the file that it needs to run the addition of the rows in, and this is what it's going to make it dynamic. Once we do this, you can see that it kind of went crazy. Now everything that we have here below it doesn't work anymore. It's not being recognized because now Power Automate doesn't know what's the file that we're using. So we have to kind of manually put it. For now, I will delete all of this. And in the table, let's just write table 1. And in the row, we are going to remove this item / from the code that we copied previously. I'm going to copy all of this, and let's remove this again. And let's open a curly bracket, then a curly bracket at the end, and let's paste it. Well, here it didn't work as I thought it would work. We need to add here an opening curly bracket because that's the way Power Automate will recognize that this is a formula or some like a calculated value or dynamic value. So let's do it like this. Copy and put it here, and it should work after we make this change. So let's paste it here, and you can see now that we have all the column names along with the dynamic values where it is coming from. And then we have to do a pretty similar thing for the budget. So let's dynamically input the file. So item ID, the ID from the file. Then everything else we go crazy. We just need to write the table name, which is table 2. And then let's remove this and this. And in the row, let's remove the item, and add the curly bracket. And let's copy this, and as well, opening a curly bracket, closing one to indicate this is an object and a row. And now we can see that Power Automate is recognizing correctly the year and the total, and it's going to enter a new row. So for now, we are going to change the status to in progress, and we're gonna execute it as it is so we can see in general how the workflow is doing and if we need to make any adjustments so far. So let's make sure that the workflow is turned on. Okay, it's turned on. We need to reload because we made some changes. So let's make sure that this works. And the one we're working with is this one. Then let's hit on save and send, then continue. And let's make sure that the project changed the status. So yeah, it's here. So the workflow should start anytime soon. Okay, it seems like it's running. So let's see what it's doing. And if I go to generated files, we have here the file that was generated for ID 16 and the GUID that was also generated there. So it seems like it already added the team member data, and it's adding now the budgets. If I open the file, okay, it's done. the Excel connector is quite slow, so it doesn't show immediately. And we can see here that it added some rows at the bottom, so let's delete them. And yeah, now we can see here that we have the name, the role, the contract type, and the department, and then the hours. So, and as well as the information from the total. And here, something that we can do is to update the template a little bit for it to not add the rows below as it did here, and as well to for the format of the currencies, because the total here is not showing 1,000 separators, so we can add them, and we can do that by updating the template. So for now, let's update the template here with the currency numbers as well as here. And the project name, the person's name, I think it needs to be longer because it was not visible. And that's it. Now that we know that the data is correctly added into the Excel file, at least the tables, we can go ahead and add the total approved, project name, company, department, and priority. For us to be able to do that, there are many ways. We can do it and kind of simulate a table on this and use the add row in a table. That could work. We could also do update or something like that. But there's another option, which is an Office script. The Office scripts allows us to automate actions in the cloud, and we can manipulate Excel files in many ways. One of the ways that we can do that is just simply writing into it. So I think that's probably at least that's the way that I would prefer to do it, because it's a very easy script to write. We just need to indicate what are the input values and then just map them to the correct cell that they need to be. So in this case, the Office scripts can be found in this Automate section. If we go to Automate, we're going to see a list of all the scripts that we have, and we can record actions. Just like we do with macros, there's something pretty similar we can do here. So we can record, write information here, and then just stop recording, and then just set them as input variables. So for that, I think it's a lot easier. Office scripts use TypeScript and JavaScript, so if there's something that we want to do that we don't know how to do, we can just Google it or ask Copilot or ChatGPT or something to help us to write the code in TypeScript, and that can be also used in the Office scripts. So for that, let's record the actions, and it started recording. So let's do test project name, let's do test company, test department, test priority, and finally the budget, which is going to be, for example, 5,000. Now we can see that it has added everything similar to when we record a macro. Then pretty much it's done. And first things first, let's rename it, and we can name it Add Project Details. Then it's going to be renamed, and I will right-click on this URL and open a new tab, because that will show me where the Office script is saved, because Office scripts are saved in OneDrive. So we need to get it from there and put it into SharePoint. So let's do that. Add project details. It was renamed correctly, and then we can go ahead and edit. So for us to edit, now we can see that the code is pretty similar to what we do in macros in Excel. It just gets the range, then sets the value, get range, set value, and so on. In this case, the value is going to be hard-coded. It's always going to say test project name. But what we can do is to just set up this to come from an external source, or to be kind of the coming from an input variable. So for us to do that, we can, for example, write string, which is going to be the data type, and then just write project name. Sorry, I was actually writing it all the way around. It should be the variable name, and then the two dots, and then the data type. In this case, it's going to be string. And then I can use this project name and just put it into where I need this to go, which is range B6. And I'm going to do that for all the values that we have. Company name, then this is going to be string. Then we have department name, and then as well string. And then we also have priority. We're going to put it priority value. And this is also going to be string. And the total approved, it's going to be budget total. And we can set this one as well as string, because as we can see, here Power Automate, or the Office script better said, is writing it as text because it's in between double quotes. So we're gonna just keep the same format. And then we just need to map. This will go into N6. Priority value will go into B15. Department name will go into B12. And company name into B9. So now let's save. And we can grab the Office script, which is the one that we had here. I opened it by going to the project name and then right-clicking on Office scripts. This will take us to where the Office script is being saved. That's usually in OneDrive, Documents, and then Office scripts. I will just download the script that we just wrote, and I will upload it to the same library where we have the template. That way we have the template and the script in the same place, and we can edit them at any time. For now, I will remove all the test values that I added into the template because we need this to be empty and clean. And let's close all of this. Now, the way to put this into the Excel file is just using an action that is called Run Script from SharePoint library. And it's pretty straightforward. We just select where's the script, what's the file, and then we just run it. So this is what we need, this action, and the workbook location is the El Salvador user group. The library is test. Then the workbook, as we know so far, what Power Automate uses is the ID from the create file, or at least what Power Automate in the Excel connector uses is the ID. And then we select where the script is. It may be that they are in different SharePoint sites, and that's why they separate it like this. And then it asks us which library it is, and it happens to be the same. And in this one, we just need to select from the file selector and select this. Once we select it, this is going to recognize that we added some input variables into the Office script, because that's what we did when we were creating the script. You can see that here we have project name, company name, department name, priority value, and budget total. And here we just need to bring the dynamic values from the trigger, which is project name, and then company, then department, then priority, and finally the budget. And what this will do is we'll take information from the SharePoint trigger and then send it to the Excel file to just put it into the specific cells that we specified. And this is how the Office script can talk to Power Automate workflow. And that's how we can send information from the workflow to the Office script for the Office script to use dynamic information. I would usually add a little delay after the script runs because I think that Excel is a bit slow. So I would add 15 seconds because it's usually quite slow to reflect the information. And after that, we can, for example, get file content again. And then, for example, send it through email, create a link for it. Anything that we would like the workflow to do, we can get the content of the updated file and then send it to someone or create a document or something like that. So we would need to do get file content. And then this would give us the most updated version of the template, And then again, the file identifier is going to come from the ID. Then we get the newest file, and then we can just send it through email, or we can just send it through Teams as a link or something like that. We're going to leave it like this because the next step is just going to send it through email or do something or send a link or something like that. That depends a lot on the kind of process we're working on. But for now, let's go to the previous execution and let's wait for it to save so we can rerun it and see all the lines added, plus the header information, which was project name, company, and all of that. So let's give it a moment for it to end. Okay, so it seems like it added the rows, then the budget, and then it ran the Office script. So let's just give it another moment for it to finish. And here is the library. We can see this is the document that we were working on, the one that was created most recently. And we can see how the year was correctly added. Now we have the total with the right format, the total approved, Then we also have here the name of the project team, the role, everything. And we also added through the Office script all the other header values using these manipulation tools in which we can write on top of some cell and just specify what's the value that we want. And we did that through input variables that the Office script will request from Power Automate, and Power Automate will send based on the information from the trigger or from any other value that we have here in our workflow. And this is an example on how we can create fillable Excel templates with Power Automate and Office scripts. I hope that this was useful for you. See you next time.